WWE Elimination Chamber is live this Sunday from Philadelphia, the final stop before WrestleMania. Let's run down the card and give predictions. I'll mix in some Raw and Smackdown thoughts from this week's shows as we go along here. With plans obviously changing and Goldberg beating The Fiend to win the Universal title, they have eliminated the planned men's Smackdown Chamber match that Roman Reigns almost certainly would have won, unless they wanted to swerve everybody and then have him win the shot back a couple of weeks ago. They wouldn't have done that. It would have been a Roman Reigns win. It was very predictable, so I don't mind them cutting. It's almost like cutting out the middleman, even though it is kind of goofy that he just sort of walked into the ring and requested a title match when everybody else has to earn it. You could argue that Roman never technically lost the championship. He had to give it up. I think you're reaching. I mean, that was so long ago. But again, I'm not complaining. The outcome was never in doubt. But they obviously changed plans. You had people like Sheamus on television talking about entering the chamber match, and now there is none. And the SmackDown Women's Chamber match that Lacey Evans had alluded to, I mean, they never outright came out and announced a SmackDown Women's Chamber match, but she did that sit down with Renee Young a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about entering the chamber, talking about like there was going to be a third chamber match on this pay-per-view, and that has not been mentioned at all since then, including on the Go Home show this week. So she obviously misspoke, or probably more likely, they just changed their minds. They changed their minds on that too, and they eliminated it. Who knew that Elimination Chamber was to be taken so literally? They eliminated 2 different chamber matches from this show. I cannot remember the last time that we had an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. There was a time where the Elimination Chamber was a pretty big deal. As far as stipulation shows are concerned, Money in the Bank now is kind of, I think, the de facto big gimmick show of all the gimmick shows now. Chamber and this, or Chamber and Money in the Bank, Hell in a Cell, TLC. I would say Money in the Bank is clearly sort of the main one of the bunch. I'm not a big fan of the gimmick shows to begin with. I would just stick with Money in the Bank and get rid of all the other ones if it were up to me. But I don't recall a time where we had a Chamber pay-per-view, which used to be kind of a big deal, that just felt so insignificant. It just does not, it feels like a complete afterthought, this pay-per-view does. And I can't remember the last time, and this is part of the reason why, that we had an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view where neither of the chamber matches on the show were being contested either for a shot at one of the top titles in the company or for the actual titles themselves. No Universal Championship match, no WWE Championship match, and no match for either title to find out who goes to WrestleMania. In this case, it would have been for the Universal Championship since Drew won the Royal Rumble. Nothing. And I can't remember the last time that happened. So many of the top names are not even on the show. Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre, they're not on the show either. I thought their segment from Raw Monday night was great. One of the highlights of the show, Lesnar ate not 1, but 3 Claymore kicks. He sold the crap out of them. Even a small little detail like Lesnar telling McIntyre to grab the belt. Everybody was analyzing the audio when the show was over. It was like the Zapruder video of the JFK assassination. I think I hear Brock Lesnar saying something to Drew McIntyre. Oh, he's telling him to get the belt. Little things like that. That Lesnar is helpful with every now and then. Lesnar knows what to do and when. He's a veteran guy. I know he's not there all the time, but he's been doing this a long time. Don't forget, Brock Lesnar's been training since 2000, probably. I'm maybe 99. I'm guessing 2000 is when he goes back with WWE. So he's not exactly a rookie at this. And he tells Drew to go grab the belt, and Drew scurries over and grabs it and poses with it. Hopefully that's not an omen for him. Lesnar did what he needed to do to make Drew feel like a real threat. And I'm sure there's an F5 in his future, maybe 3 of them, just like he took 3 Claymore kicks. I thought the first, just to wrap up with Raw here, I thought the first 2 and the last 2 segments from Raw Monday night were quality. Everything in the middle almost put me to sleep. I have nothing good to say about much that happened in the middle of that show. It's like, who needs anesthesia? Who needs anesthesia or a chloroform rag when you've got the middle 2 hours of Raw to knock you out each week? The cure for insomnia. For me, the cure for insomnia is the Home Shopping Network. If I ever can't fall asleep, I just put Home Shopping Network on. Get a couple of women on there, showing bracelets on their wrists. Out like a light. 30 seconds later, I'm out. Who needs it? Who needs it? Just watch the middle of Monday Night Raw. So let's run down this card here. Just added to the pay-per-view, Drew Gulak is getting a match one-on-one with Daniel Bryan. This started when Gulak told Bryan a couple of weeks ago that he had put together a PowerPoint presentation about Bryan's weaknesses. He was trying to help him get back to his winning ways. He was going to show him what he's been doing wrong. And on Smackdown this week, Bryan challenged Gulak to fight him at the Elimination Chamber if he's so confident that he can exploit Bryan's weaknesses. I'm going to go with Gulak here. I am picking Drew Gulak to win this match. I think Gulak will shock Daniel Bryan. It'll be a fluke win. He'll find some kind of weakness to exploit. He'll shock Bryan, and then they'll meet again. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Bryan requested this, that he requested to work a program with Drew Gulak. Maybe they could even take this all the way to WrestleMania. I mean, think about it. When you think of who's available, all the key matches for WrestleMania have been set. We know what all the key matches are going to be. And I'm sure Edge and Orton, that'll be made official on Monday night. Where does Daniel Bryan fit into all this? It would be an injustice to just shove him in the Battle Royal. Hey, you know what? A program with Drew Gulak, the matches those two could probably have. Why not? So I'm picking Gulak for a shock win here. We've got our first of 2 Elimination Chamber matches for the Smackdown Tag Team titles. The champions, John Morrison and The Miz, defend against the Usos, The New Day, Heavy Machinery, Lucha House Party, and Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode. Ziggler and Roode will enter the chamber last, per their win on SmackDown in the Gauntlet match. Boy, they sure do love their Gauntlet matches. And I will say that more often than not, WWE, if there's one formula that they have that does tend to work, not all the time, it is their Gauntlet match formula. There have been some damn good Gauntlet matches that they've had, going back to the one that Seth Rollins had on Raw where he lasted an hour. That was a couple of years ago. Or maybe it was early last year. It might have been a year ago. It's so hard to keep track of time. Everything these days just sort of blends together. But that was one example. Last year, actually that was probably 2 years ago. Last year was the Kofi Kingston Gauntlet. I remember that being very good. They went a little Gauntlet crazy there for a while last year, and then they cooled it a little bit. It's almost as though they just rely on it as a crutch. It's an easy way for them to kill almost an hour of the show. This Gauntlet went over 40 minutes. They killed almost the entire second hour of SmackDown this week with this Gauntlet match. But I can't complain. Heavy Machinery was the story here. Heavy Machinery started the Gauntlet. They nearly went the distance. They went all the way to the bitter end before they finally lost. Otis is big time over right now. You listen to the reactions that he's getting, and not to take anything away from Tucker, because Tucker was over too, but not as much as Otis. So whatever they're doing with Otis is working. It's why I've loved this story so much on this show. It's a simple story with him and Mandy and Dolph, but it's working. It's getting him over even more. Dolph Ziggler is hated. He is one of the most hated men in this entire company. You know, before I felt nothing. I felt nothing when this man would walk out. I felt dead on the inside, as he probably has for the last few years of his career. I felt apathy for Dolph Ziggler. Now at least I feel hatred. At least I feel something. When this man walks out, I feel hate. That's the emotion that I feel. This story is working. It's building to something at WrestleMania. I don't know if it's a tag team match, a mixed tag, a singles match. You know, one of the rumors was a singles match with Otis and Dolph, with Mandy as the referee. There's a few different ways that you can go with this. Me personally, I'm hoping that we get the reveal before WrestleMania that it was probably Sonya who texted Otis and tried to sabotage their Valentine's Day date, and we end up with some kind of a mixed tag. But really the issue is Otis and Dolph. Somebody is playing them against each other, but the issue is Otis and Dolph. And the people couldn't wait for Otis to get his hands on Dolph. He got a couple of shots in on SmackDown, but he has not yet gotten his revenge. And in the end, it was Ziggler with a super kick to put down Otis, so he and Rude will enter last. They will not win. As far as the prediction here, look, one other quick thing from the gauntlet. I hate that Miz and Morrison, I know it played into the story that, Heavy Machinery had to go to the very end, so they kind of had to do something here, but I hate that Miz and Morrison have now lost back-to-back matches coming out of sweet Saudi money and winning the tag team championships. They have been losers on television. As far as my pick, Miz and Morrison just won the belts. It's too soon to hand them back to the Usos. It's too soon to hand them back to New Day. What is to be gained by doing that? So what is that? Reign number 8 for the New Day if they win the belts back? Nobody wants to see that. Lucha House Party isn't winning. And I think Otis and Dolph in the Chamber, those two teams are basically going to cancel each other out. That leaves Miz and Morrison. Miz and Morrison to retain. We have new Raw Tag Team Champions. They are the Street Profits. They defend against the former champions Murphy and the Monday Night Messiah. Now, on Raw Monday Night, they called it a now or never match for the tag team titles. I thought they had a fun little match. AOP tried to interfere. They got tossed. Referee was distracted. Kevin Owens ran up from behind Rollins. He gave him a stunner. Montez Ford hit this gigantic frog splash to seal the deal. The Street Profits are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. Seth demanded a rematch at the pay-per-view. He said Kevin Owens, he can name the time, name the place, name the stipulation, and he will crucify him. So I'm sure that'll be at WrestleMania. As far as this match goes, I got Street Profits retaining. Rollins is headed for a singles match with Owens, clearly. There's no need to put the tag team belts back on him, so Street Profits to retain. Andrade, back from his suspension, defends his United States Championship against Humberto Carrillo. Again, yes, Carrillo gets another championship match. It's like Batista in 2006. All the world title shots that he got on SmackDown, it was comical. It was comical. The number of World Heavyweight Championship matches that Batista... It's almost like when he finally did win the title, what's so impressive about it? If you're just going to feed title shot after title shot after title shot to the same person over and over again, you're going to win one eventually. A blind squirrel is going to find a nut if you give it enough chances. I feel like that's what's going on here with Carrillo. Carrillo's getting this shot. He pinned Andrade in a tag team match on Monday night. A very enjoyable match. It was Humberto and Rey Mysterio taking on Andrade and Angel Garza. Angel Garza kissed someone's grandmother in the front row before the match. He's kissing everybody. He's got to be careful now with this coronavirus. He shouldn't be going around kissing people. I'm going to say Carrillo wins the championship. I'm picking Humberto Carrillo to win the United States Championship. He wins it here, and my prediction is that he then drops it at WrestleMania. They're going to do a 4-way with Rey Mysterio and Andrade and Angel Garza and Humberto, and at WrestleMania, Garza is going to win the U.S. title. Carrillo's going to win it here. He's going to be a transitional champion, and Garza will win the championship at WrestleMania. That's my early prediction. And that could be the eventual catalyst for a storyline split between Andrade and Garza and Zelina Vega. But Carrillo should win it here because if they're going to do that, they're going to do that 4-way at WrestleMania. He should win the championship here. Because ask yourself this question, and I always make this mistake. I know I'm a glutton for punishment by even using the word sense, using the words common sense in a sentence together when it comes to WWE. I know. It's a flaw that I have. I can't help it. But what sense would it make for Carrillo to lose here again, but get another shot at WrestleMania? Why? Just because they want to get everybody on the show? There should be a reason. If he loses here, there's no reason for him to sniff that U.S. title ever again. So I would have him win it here and get the belt onto Garza at WrestleMania. Garza is the future. Get that championship onto him. Braun Strowman defends his Intercontinental Championship in a 3-on-1 handicap match against Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and I guess the returning Sami Zayn. We haven't seen Sami in a match in a very long time. They had a moment of bliss on Smackdown this week with the NWO. The NWO is being inducted this year into the WWE Hall of Fame. It is Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Sean Waltman. Hulk Hogan was not there tonight. Hall, Nash, and Waltman were. They came out in their NWO gear. So think about this. We have Jake the Snake making an appearance on TNT this week, and Scott Hall making an in-ring appearance on Fox, both in the span of 48 hours. DDP is a miracle worker. I'm sure he was watching like a proud papa this week. This does not happen without him. My observations from this moment of bliss, Nash is still a unit out there. This guy just towers over everybody. I mean, Braun Strowman is a big dude, and he's clearly a little bit taller at this point than Nash. I'm sure Nash used to be a little bit taller even than he still is. But yeah, he's had surgeries, knee surgery. The guy's literally had 20-some-odd knee surgeries going back to his basketball days. I'm sure he's lost a couple of inches as he's gotten older. He's still a big guy, though. I mean, he still towers over everybody. And Waltman looked like they could sign him to a contract tomorrow, and he could still go if he wanted to. I'm sure Goldberg was thrilled about Scott Hall laughing at him on television and poking fun at the taser incident from his Starrcade match with Nash back in '98 when Nash ended Goldberg's streak. Goldberg and Scott Hall, for those who don't know, they do not get along. They do not like each other at all. Or at least I know Goldberg hates Scott Hall. I shouldn't say, I'm pretty sure Scott Hall is not exactly Goldberg's biggest fan either. I know the hate at least comes from the Goldberg side. Goldberg hates Scott Hall. He does not like Scott Hall. They work together in WCW. And look, I'm sure Goldberg saw Hall do some shit. And Hall probably, or said some shit. Scott Hall was probably a dick back then. And Goldberg probably has every right to feel the way that he feels about Scott Hall. But he is not fond of Scott Hall. So I'm sure Hall sitting there laughing at Goldberg probably wasn't his favorite moment. That is, if Goldberg was even watching the show. He certainly wasn't on the show. Neither was Roman Reigns. I guess no reason for them to be. Then neither one of them are on the pay-per-view. This is the go-home show to the pay-per-view. A pay-per-view that they're not even on. So why should they be on the show? But I'm watching this. I'm watching this segment with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and they're interviewing the NWO. And I'm thinking to myself, we've got Goldberg back on top as the champion. And Hall and Nash are on TV in their NWO gear, mocking Goldberg for getting one over on him. Like, what year is it again? What year am I in? Strowman's winning this. Maybe Sami Zayn will make it entertaining. I'm not a big fan of these handicap matches. I'm not a big fan of the idea of Cesaro and Nakamura losing to somebody in a handicap match in a 3-on-1 situation. Strowman's going to win. And my expectation and prediction is that he goes on to WrestleMania to defend the championship against Sheamus. Sheamus, the Intercontinental title is the one title, as Sheamus has said. I mean, I don't know if he's been Universal Champion. I guess maybe he hasn't been, but it's one of the only titles that he has yet to win in a company where he has pretty much held every other achievement that you could think of. WWE Champion, World Champion, U.S. Champion, multiple-time Tag Team Champion, King of the Ring, Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank. This guy's done it all. Except the Intercontinental title. He was talking about this a few weeks ago, how important it would be to him to win the championship. He's got no obvious next opponent. Have a big hoss match between him and Strowman at WrestleMania and give the IC belt to Sheamus. Why not? AJ Styles takes on Aleister Black. No disqualification rules. They were supposed to have a match on Monday night, and they did technically, but not the kind of match that we were expecting. Before the match, AJ was annoyed by comments from Mark Wahlberg, who was promoting his new movie. And they must have said, hey, can you read some dialogue here that we can use on WWE television? It was one of these press junket things where the actor sits around and a whole bunch of media people come in throughout the day to interview him about their movie. So they had him read some dialogue, and in this clip that they played, he suggested that AJ Styles just walk away from The Undertaker. This is not a fight that you want. Just walk away. And AJ was beside himself. He couldn't believe that he was getting advice now from Marky Mark. He's already got to face a Mark at WrestleMania. Now he's getting advice from Marky Mark. You ever see the movie Fear? Don't fuck with Marky Mark. I'd be more afraid of him than I would be of The Undertaker. Great movie. He said Undertaker is trying to hold on to the spotlight, a spotlight that isn't his anymore. Now the spotlight belongs to AJ Styles. Damn straight. Damn straight. Damn straight. The 54-year-old needs to step aside and make room for the 42-year-old. Damn straight. Difference is, of course, the 42-year-old can still go. I can't say the same, unfortunately, for the 54-year-old. AJ forced Alistair to go through Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows first, just for the right to get to him. So, another gauntlet type situation. As I said before, WWE sure does love their gauntlets. So the OC was going to force Aleister Black to run the gauntlet in order to get to AJ here. This was not as good as the gauntlet on SmackDown, I will say that. When he finally did get to AJ beat him with the phenomenal forearm, and he crossed Aleister's arms across his chest to pin him like The Undertaker does. So now they're going to have a no disqualification match, which would seem to invite interference from Anderson and Gallows, which is why I think Undertaker either shows up or his dong does, it goes off to distract AJ and cost him the win, with the idea being that AJ can lose now because I hope he'll get his win back over The Undertaker at WrestleMania, although that's not a sure thing. So Aleister Black is my pick to win here. It could end up being a handicap match at WrestleMania. I'm not so sure that wouldn't be the smarter way to go. Instead of doing one-on... I know the bigger marquee match is AJ Styles and The Undertaker one-on-one, but it's a match that is at least 5 years too late. Realistically, it's 10 years too late, but it's a match that's at least 5 years too late. Undertaker in a singles match is a dangerous proposition. The only singles match I want to see The Undertaker in at this point is his retirement match, and we know this is not going to be his retirement match. I'm holding out hope because time-wise it would be kind of cool if they timed it with the Survivor Series in November, because it's going to be 30 years to the day, to the very pay-per-view that The Undertaker debuted in 1990. If ever there was a place to do it, that would be it, and it could be Undertaker against Aleister Black. Maybe this is sort of an early seed being planted if they want to do something with the both of them where they team up at WrestleMania. 3-on-2, handicap match, to take on all three members of the OC. Now that would change my prediction for WrestleMania if that were to happen. I don't see Aleister Black and The Undertaker losing if they are a tag team. But in a singles match, AJ Styles should Styles Clash Undertaker on his fucking face and win. Undertaker also wins. It pains me to even say the word sad tweet and Undertaker in the same sentence, because The Undertaker should not be tweeting. It just feels wrong. But he wins for Sad Tweet of the Week. WWE.com posted a gallery of photos this week in honor of some of the greatest women to ever hold a championship either in WWE or on the NXT brand. This was in honor of Women's History Month. And it did not go unnoticed by The Undertaker's wife, the former women's champion herself, Michelle McCool, that she was not included on this list. She was not included in this gallery of images. She was snubbed. So, she took to Twitter, and she had this to say. Real talk. When you've put up with more in the past than anyone would believe, simply because I am The Undertaker's wife, have rarely been mentioned for making any contribution to the women's revolution, but wow, not even the top 45. Hashtag zero talent. For the record, not a shot at any girl on this list, respect to all, just felt the urge to speak up and remind all to know your worth. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Afterthought? Nope. You are worthy. Hashtag real talk. So WWE.com later updated the gallery to include Michelle McCool, and they threw a few other names in there that were left out, like Bull Nakano, but the Undertaker was having none of it, or at least whoever is running the Undertaker's Twitter account. It is an official account. It's got the blue check mark. Doesn't mean Undertaker has the Twitter app on his phone, though, and is actually doing the tweeting from for his own account. So I have a theory about this. My theory is that his wife has control over his account and either forgot that she was logged into it or just posted on his behalf. But I could be wrong. It could very well be. It could very well have been that the Undertaker himself, who said, he was fed up with this, and what he tweeted was, "Too little, too late, unbelievable," with 2 exclamation points. Mind you, the Undertaker had not tweeted anything prior to this tweet since September of last year. But this ruffled his underfeathers so much that he just felt the need to respond. Undertaker stands by his lady. And finally, we have the Raw Women's Elimination Chamber match. I guess this is the de facto main event on Sunday for the right to challenge Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Natalya, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, and Sarah Logan. Asuka was to have wrestled Shayna on Monday night. She has a wrist injury. She had hurt her wrist at a live event the night before. She was not cleared, and so Kairi Sane took her place. These two had a great NXT Women's Championship match at TakeOver Brooklyn a couple of years ago. Shayna and Kairi. Unfortunately, this was not that match. This was not the same match. This was meant to be a showcase for Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler is new to Monday Night Raw. It was her first match on the show officially. She was toying with Kairi basically the entire time. All of a sudden, Elton John walked out in the middle of the match to join the announce team. Or maybe it was Becky Lynch, I don't know. Elton John wouldn't come within 50 feet of this show, that I can tell you. Maybe we should start calling her the Rocket Man, Becky Lynch. She's wearing a fur coat. She's got the oversized sunglasses. She took Jerry Lawler's crown. She put it on her head. The fans in Brooklyn did not give a shit about this match. There were chants of boring. Shayna got the win with the Kirifuda clutch. In a separate match on the show Monday night, Liv Morgan, another Chamber participant, she pinned Ruby Riott after a fast count by Sarah Logan. Sarah Logan was serving as the special referee. After the match, Liv knocked down Ruby, Sarah knocked down Liv. I don't care at all about the Riot Squad drama. I just want the Chamber to come down to Asuka and Shayna. Now, this is assuming Asuka gets cleared. It's possible that Asuka's still injured and hasn't been cleared. You know, if she can't go, I guess they could always replace her with Kairi. I was shocked that she wasn't in the Chamber to begin with. Why is Natty in there? I think Kairi beat Natty on TV a few weeks ago, yet Natty is in the Chamber, but not Kairi Sane. But if Asuka can't go, you know, whether they put all due respect, and I like Kairi, but if Asuka can't be there, if she's not cleared, then this match takes a very sharp turn right into the toilet. I'm not all that interested in it to begin with. We already know who's going to win. It's like the Roman Reigns thing. But if Asuka's hurt and she can't be part of this match, then I've lost all interest in even bothering with this. The easy prediction, Shayna wins. I mean, it's the easiest pick for me to make on this entire show. I think we must all be in agreement, I would hope. Shayna Baszler wins, goes on to face Becky Lynch. Or does she? Because there was a report in this week's Wrestling Observer that Vince McMahon was very negative on Baszler's match with Kairi Sane on Monday night. It didn't get a good reaction, he thought, which it was heel against heel. Kairi Sane is a heel. Shayna Baszler is a heel. What was he expecting? People in the crowd to be cheering wildly? To be doing, slapping high fives and doing cartwheels? What was he expecting? According to the report, he felt that she also did not come off as someone worthy of being a WrestleMania headliner. Well, hey, her match with Becky ain't headlining WrestleMania this year, so that shouldn't even be an issue. was the woman's first match on the show. It was her first match on Monday Night Raw. There is no one else outside of possibly Asuka. And even Asuka has already lost to Becky Lynch. That's done. No one else in this match who belongs with Becky at WrestleMania. Ruby Riott just came back. She's a good wrestler. I like Ruby, but Ruby Riott should not be challenging Becky Lynch as a marquee match for the championship at WrestleMania. Talk to me in a year. Not now. Shayna Baszler is the only choice. She bit a chunk of this woman's neck off. You don't give up on Shayna Baszler after one bad night. Now, I will say, her match at Survivor Series wasn't great either. That was the triple threat with Becky and Bayley and Shayna went over. I think it's unfair to put all of that on Shayna, though, and she came right back in NXT a month later and had a fantastic match when she dropped the championship, the NXT Women's Championship, to Rhea Ripley. I love that match. Give her time. She's new to the brand. A lot of people aren't familiar with her. Her style is different. Her style is more mat-based and submission-based. Give her time. But if this report is to be believed and he does end up giving up on Shayna Baszler, let that be a lesson. Let this be a lesson to every single one of those men and women waiting in the wings for their big moment, for their big call-up in NXT, outside of a few not named Rhea Ripley. Let this be a lesson to them about what future awaits them. You know what I think the real problem is here? I'll tell you right now what I think the problem is. The problem is I don't think Shayna is blonde enough for Vince McMahon's liking. She needs to dye her hair blonde before WrestleMania. That way Vince will give her all the belts. Problem solved. But that's the whole pay-per-view. That's the card as it stands right now. I thought maybe they would announce some kind of they love their contract signings. Do a contract signing with Roman and Goldberg just to get them on the show. Nope. A lot of big names are missing. Randy Orton and Edge, they're going to shoot their angle on Monday night. So it's a very underwhelming Elimination Chamber card. Probably the most underwhelming maybe that they've ever put together, to be perfectly honest with you. But sometimes you go into these shows that have low expectations and they impress you. When the bar is set so low, sometimes you have a pay-per-view that comes along and it really just blows you away and turns out to be an excellent show. Maybe this will be one of those shows. We'll find out. I'm going to be live streaming when it's over, good, bad, or ugly. Whatever it ends up being, I'm going to be live on YouTube as soon as the Elimination Chamber goes off the air this Sunday. So probably around 10:30 or sometime between 10:30 and 11 p.m. Sunday night. Join me live on YouTube. Join me this Sunday, episode 642 of the podcast, a packed show. I'm going to talk about Dark Side of the Ring. That's coming back on Vice. And a whole ton of other stuff to get into this week. That's coming up, as always, on Sunday. And I'll see you back here for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view recap on Sunday night. Until then, have a great weekend, guys.